When hinges creak in doorless chambers, and strange and frightening sounds echo through the halls. Whenever candle lights flicker where the air is deathly still, that is the time when ghosts are present, practicing their terror with ghoulish delight. Haunted Mansion. So, we got ourselves another Haunted Mansion movie. 20 years after Disney rolled the dice the first time with Eddie Murphy, didn't work out so well. Now they're trying again with this lovely cast, which includes Lakeith Stanfield, Rosario Dawson, Owen Wilson, Danny DeVito, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Tiffany Haddish. So Haunted Mansion is based off of the ride at Disneyland, the Haunted Mansion, which I personally am a huge fan of. And as that ride is in New Orleans Square in Disneyland, this movie takes place in New Orleans. Lakeith Stanfield plays Ben. He's into the supernatural, ghostish stuff. He's kind of down on his luck, and he is brought into this mansion by Gabby, played by Rosario Dawson, because she's like, hey, yeah, this mansion is haunted. Can you help us out with this? And so they assemble a crew consisting of a priest played by Owen Wilson, a psychic played by Tiffany Haddish, and a researcher played by Danny DeVito, and they're gonna investigate this unhinged mansion. And so here we go. There's no turning back now. Alright, like I said, I am a huge fan of the ride at Disneyland. I love the soundtrack, I love the aesthetic of it all. It's one of my favorite rides there. I always go on it whenever I go to Disneyland, and I'm an even bigger fan of when it becomes Haunted Mansion Holiday from Halloween to New Year's. But for this movie, I'm gonna push that fanboy in me aside, because I want to be objective about this one. Because truth be told, you know what I'm an even bigger fan of than Haunted Mansion and Haunted Mansion Holiday? Great movies. And as an objective observer who loves great movies, this movie is just okay. I mean, of course, as a Haunted Mansion fan, I had a really good time with it, seeing all the cool Haunted Mansion stuff that I love from the ride. I'll get to that. But this movie being PG-13, I do wish it was a little more hardcore, you know? But first I'll touch on the characters. Lakeith Stanfield as Ben is actually the main character in this film. Yeah, from the trailers it made it look like Rosario Dawson was gonna be the main character, at least to me. Nah, I'd say Ben is the one who gets the most focus. And I will say Ben is a really good main character. You get his backstory, why he's in the situation he's in now. You don't get it right away, so at first you're like, okay, why is he like this? The movie does eventually explain, like, as the story progresses. But the movie starts off with him where he's doing alright, and then it suddenly cuts to him where he's down on his luck, and I was like, did I miss something? It was really jarring. I was like, how did that, like, has it been a while? The movie doesn't really tell us. Yeah, it was a bit confusing the first few minutes. But eventually we do learn what happened and we're like, okay, so yeah, you're a pretty good character. You're relatable. I gotcha, all right. Rosario Dawson is really good. And actually, I just realized she's on both of these posters behind me. I never even thought about that. To be fair though, she is a great actress. Gabby and her kid named Travis, which this is one thing I noticed with him. Throughout the movie, this is a nitpick mind you, but there are scenes where like his voice is deeper in some scenes than it is in other scenes. And I get that scenes are shot out of order, but I guess it was shot around that time when his voice was changing, or at least that's how it sounded to me. And it just threw me off. I don't know if anyone else felt that sensation. Maybe I'm just crazy. Wouldn't be surprised. Everyone else in the crew just pretty much felt like they were playing themselves. Owen Wilson was Owen Wilson, Danny DeVito was Danny DeVito, Tiffany Haddish was Tiffany Haddish. They were functional in the movie, but I didn't feel like their characters were really anything special. They were pretty much just archetypes of the characters these actors usually play. I do want to give a special shout out to one actor in this film who might upset a couple of people, and I apologize for that, but Jared Leto as the Hatbox Ghost. Yeah, I thought he was really good actually in this role. Because really, I mean, for the most part, he's a CG character, so it's really just Jared Leto's voice, but his vocal performance I thought was really good.
There's always room for one more.
That's awesome. And the Hatbox Ghost, who's a fan favorite from the ride, he actually has a pretty big role in this film that I don't want to spoil for you, but I do want to give this character all sorts of props, because I thought he was awesome. And springboarding off of that, I'll touch on all the rest of the Haunted Mansion stuff that I personally know and love from the ride. Yeah, there's a lot of Haunted Mansion stuff in this Haunted Mansion movie. You get the stretching room, I'm not spoiling this because it's in the trailer, the ghost playing the organ with all the little ghouls coming out. Constance Hatchaway is in this movie. My favorite character from the ride. Loved seeing her in this movie. Seriously, like I damn near applauded and cheered whenever she came on screen. So the movie is absolutely great fan service to fans of the ride, especially with the soundtrack. I usually touch on soundtracks at the end of my reviews, but as long as we're talking about fan service, that Haunted Mansion theme, that grim grinning ghost theme, da 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 da, that theme is all over this movie and I loved hearing it. That's actually one thing that the 2003 film didn't have enough of. It had it, but not nearly enough. This movie has it in spades, so I gotta commend that. And yeah, this movie is faithful to the lore from the ride. And actually, fun fact, the ride over the years has had several different stories. One with Constance Hatchaway, another story with other ghosts and spirits. This movie actually pulls from more than one of those stories. It's kind of a conglomeration of them all, and I like that too. So whether you're a fan of one of the older stories or the new story or both, you'll be pleased. And I know I am speaking from a fan's perspective. If you're not a Haunted Mansion fan, if you don't know the lore from the ride, you'll probably still find some enjoyment from this movie. Plus the fact that unlike the 2003 film, the Haunted Mansion lore stuff is actually woven into the plot this time around. That was my biggest complaint about the first one, is that it has this own original story and the Haunted Mansion stuff was like extra thrown in stuff. No, this is a Haunted Mansion movie with a Haunted Mansion plot. Good, they learned. My biggest bummer about this film was the humor. Cause you know, this being a Disney movie ultimately aimed at kids, even though it is PG-13, it's gonna have a lot of humor, which of course I'm not opposed to horror movies having humor. Sometimes it really works. This was not one of those times. Cause the jokes in this movie were lame in my opinion. Like this one for example.
I can show you what happened, but it will cost you $3.
What? Come on. And that kind of humor is dumped all over this movie really brought it down for me. Cause like I said, this is PG-13. They could have done something really hardcore with this concept. I mean, look at Curse of the Black Pearl. It's based on a Disney ride, and it's rated PG-13, and it goes pretty hard. That movie's awesome. It's got great dialogue. It's even a little violent at times. It pushed the boundaries for Disney, and it spawned a pretty successful movie franchise. If I'm being honest, I don't really see this movie having that same kind of success, unfortunately. Cause it really plays it safe. It's a really kid-friendly PG-13 movie. I can't really think of any imagery from this movie that'll scare kids, which is a bummer because it's the Haunted Mansion. Ghosts and evil spirits and a lady in a crystal ball. You know, this movie might be mainly aimed towards kids, but the ride is for all ages. People from age 5 to 105 go on the ride and love it. With this movie, I feel like it's aimed more towards kids than anyone else, and kids are probably gonna dig it, like a grave. But I personally, given this movie's PG-13 rating, could have gone for something a little more, you know, balls to the wall. I mean, I do love the big climactic thing at the end of the movie where all the cool stuff's going down. That was really cool, and yeah, whenever all the Haunted Mansion stuff was on screen, I had a great time because I'm a fan, and I love seeing that stuff, but I don't know, me personally, I could have gone for a little more violence maybe. I mean, again, it might not be fair to compare this to Curse of the Black Pearl because it's a different crew, different thing entirely, but at the end of that movie, someone gets shot and you see the blood spurting out, and as a kid, I remember being like, ugh, I don't want to see that, that's gross. This PG-13 Haunted Mansion movie had no such grossness. So yeah, I felt it was lacking. So in the end, I did enjoy this movie, but not as much as I was hoping to. I love Lakeith Stanfield's character, I love Rosario Dawson's character, I love Jared Leto as the Hatbox Ghost, and of course I love seeing all the cool Haunted Mansion-y stuff that I know and love from the ride. But the myriad of jokes were just lame and not funny. And really, this is like the closest to PG that I've seen PG-13 get lately. And that kind of bummed me out. But I will tell you, this movie is still worth checking out in theaters, especially if you're a fan of the ride. For Haunted Mansion, I will say, wait until this movie's at a discount price, then go see it. I'll tell you what I'd really like to see if, God willing, this movie somehow gets a sequel. I'd like to see it be like a Christmas-themed Haunted Mansion spooky movie, and then they can call it Haunted Mansion Holiday. Don't make it a crossover with Nightmare Before Christmas, because no. But just a scary Christmas-themed Haunted Mansion movie called Haunted Mansion Holiday, I think that'd be really cool. That'd be the smart way to do it. So, Haunted Mansion, have you seen it yet? What are your thoughts on it, and which one do you prefer, this one or the Eddie Murphy one? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!